Hello and welcome to Lamplighter. Today is February 17. Today's reading marks the final words of Moses prior to the children of Israel entering the land of Canaan. We saw the beginning of this speech in our reading together yesterday, and today there are some further concluding remarks made by Moses. Now, some of the reading today may sound a little bit redundant because Moses is simply reviewing Israel's history with all of the people before they go into the land of Canaan. And you may be asking the question, why is he spending so much time in review? And once again, the answer to that question is that so many of these people were not around necessarily to see the plagues that happened on Egypt or to see the parting of the Red Sea. This is a new generation of people who have simply heard the wonderful stories about God. So Moses wants to reiterate all the things that God has done to call this people his own and to make them a unique nation, a theocratic nation that worships and honors and serves the only true God who is sovereign over all of creation. Now, God says that whenever the people go into the land of Canaan, the land of promise, that there are going to be some people who are already there. Some battles are going to take place for that land. And God promises that as long as the people are obedient to his commands, he is going to go before them. He is going to grant them victory even against all odds. When they feel like all of the odds are against them, when the enemy looks large, when the walls seem high and formidable, God is going to still lead the people in conquest if they are faithful and if they're obedient to him. Now, it's not because they deserve this victory. This victory is not earned or merited in any way. It's not due to Israel's inherent righteousness, because we know that they're not righteous. They've made a number of mistakes already. Remember the golden calf at the foot of Mount Sinai? It's not because of Israel's righteousness that God will deliver them in these battles, but it is because of God's goodness, and also, don't miss this, because of Canaan's wickedness. There are people living there who are idolaters. There are people who've been given a chance themselves to follow God, but they have denied God. They have forsaken God. They are a wicked people, and God is going to use Israel to come upon them to punish them. Now, as Moses is recounting all the wonderful things that God has done, he remembers the tablets of stone that have been carved out by God and inscribed by God's finger with the commandments, the 10 commandments. He remembers how those tablets have to be remade after he breaks them in his anger when he sees the people worshiping the golden calf. He remembers how God is so angry with the people for their idolatry that he wants at one time to destroy Israel and start all over again with Moses. Moses remembers how he fell on his face before God, pleading with him to have mercy on the Israelites, not because he's condoning Israel's sin, but because he's defending the honor and the reputation of God to the neighboring nations. Moses pleads for the people. God hears his prayer, and God spares the people and starts all over again with a covenant relationship. So those second tablets are made. They are put inside the Ark of the Covenant to carry with them wherever they go so that they might remember the covenant that has been made with God. Now, when you get to page 216 of today's reading, there's a nice summary here of God's will. And now, O Israel, what does the Lord your God ask of you but to fear the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, to love him, to serve the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and to observe the Lord's commands and decrees that I'm giving you today for your own good. That's pretty succinct. That's what it means to follow God and to follow within the will of God. Let's read on. To the Lord your God belong the heavens, even the highest heavens, the earth and everything in it. Yet the Lord set his affection on your forefathers and loved them, and he chose you, their descendants, above all the nations, as it is today. Circumcise your hearts, therefore, and do not be stiff-necked any longer, for the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great God, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality and accepts no bribes. He defends the cause of the fatherless and the widow and loves the alien, giving him food and clothing. And you are to love those who are aliens, for you yourselves were aliens in Egypt. Fear the Lord your God and serve him. God is telling his people this is what he expects from them. He expects the kind of covenant relationship that he himself has already sought to establish with them. Now, the blessings God is going to give them are contingent upon their obedience. So if you faithfully obey the commands I'm giving you today, to love the Lord your God and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, then I will send rain on your land in its season, both autumn and spring rains, so that you may gather in your grain, new wine, and oil. I will provide grass in the fields for your cattle, and you will eat and be satisfied. Be careful, or you will be enticed to turn away and worship other gods and bow down to them. Then the Lord's anger will burn against you, and he will shut the heavens, so that it will not rain, and the ground will yield no produce, and you will soon perish from the good land the Lord is giving you. You see, God's blessings are there for the taking, but the people must be obedient. The people must be faithful, or God will take those blessings back. Now, when you look at the very first paragraph on page 218, God is really summarizing everything that we have said so far. If you carefully observe all these commands I'm giving you to follow, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, and to hold fast to him, then the Lord will drive out all those nations before you. They are larger and stronger than you, and every place where you set your foot will be yours. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon and from the Euphrates River to the western sea. No one will be able to stand against you. The Lord your God, as he promised you, will put the terror and fear of you on the whole land wherever you go. And then he goes on with a challenge. See, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing if you obey the commands of the Lord your God that I'm giving you today, and a curse if you're disobeying the commands of the Lord your God and turn from the way that I command you today by following other gods which you've not known. So basically, Moses says the choice is yours, and there are only two choices. God has done all of these things. He's promised you a land of milk and honey. He's promised to go before you and fight your enemies, no matter how intimidating they might be. He has promised you victory and blessings, all contingent upon your faithfulness and your obedience, to trust him and to put your confidence in him and to establish that covenant relationship with him. If you're willing to do all those things, God will shower you with so many blessings you can't even count them. But Moses says the choice is yours. I'm setting before you today a blessing or a curse. It's this simple. You want the blessing? Then obey God. Be faithful to him. Are you going to be cursed? It'll be because you turn your back on God. You will be the one at fault if God curses you. You know the same is true today. God still gives every human being a choice. But the choices are only two. There's not a whole smorgasbord of choices for us to make. There are only two. Do you want to be blessed by God? Then live faithfully. Obey his commands specifically. Put your faith and your confidence and your trust in him. And God says, I will shower you with blessings, so many that you cannot count. But we have the option because of the free will he's given us. We can choose to turn our backs on God. We can choose to ignore him, to disobey him, to go our own way. But God also will choose to punish us. There will be curses. There will be consequences for our actions. The choice is simply ours. Why not make the right, the obvious, and the easy choice today? Let's be God's people. Let's be faithful to him. Isn't it great to be a lamplighter? His word is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. I hope you have a blessed day.